I couldn't believe how much I was shaking. Jason, the captain of the basketball team and my crush, was getting his books out of this locker right next to me. How did I get so lucky he had been assigned to a locker so close? I couldn't let this opportunity pass me by. I've always felt like I'm in the background at school. I could sink into the wallpaper and no one would even notice. My best friend Cindy has said she doesn't mind being so low profile. But when it comes to talking to guys, it has always stopped me from getting what I wanted, and I wanted Jason to notice me. Little did I know, I was about to make that happen. Before I tell you how I did it, make sure you like and subscribe to Storytime Animated for more insane stories like mine. I was just about to say hello when Rebecca stepped in front of me, sipping a smoothie. She's the queen bee of our school, and, like a bee, she could sting you with every one of her words.
Nice scrunchie, Sam. I love how it matches your dress. They're both equally tacky.
I turned back to my locker, blushing so much I thought my head would explode. Jason looked uncomfortable. Rebecca turned to him quickly, whipping me in the face with her long brown hair.
Hi, Jason. I'll be at your game tonight. I hope you win.
Jason smiled.
Thanks, Rebecca. See you then.
He started down the hall as the bell rang. I went to follow him, but then I felt a cold, wet liquid slide down my back and all over my dress. I turned quickly to see Rebecca and her friends laughing. She had poured her smoothie down my back.
Sorry, Sam. I just thought the color of my smoothie would look better on you.
I ran home to change. My mom saw my tears and asked what was wrong, so I explained what had happened. I couldn't believe Rebecca would do that to me. I told her I was going to keep a low profile from now on, like Cindy. My mom got this sly look in her eyes. I do the same thing when I have an idea. We look similar, the same wild blonde hair, the same blue eyes, but she's way prettier. I always wanted to grow up to look just like her, but so far, it didn't look like that was bound to happen. She put her hand on my arm comfortingly.
Sweetheart, fading into the background will just let Rebecca win.
She went upstairs and came down with something glittering in her hands, a butterfly hair clip.
This belonged to your grandmother. She was a famous film actor for many years. She was beautiful, confident, and was never in the background of any scene. She would want you to have this.
I took the clip and put it in my hair. I did feel a little more confident. My mom smiled at me and said,
Use it wisely, okay?
Whatever that means. But when I got to school the next day, I couldn't believe the change. People were looking at me in the hallway in a way they never had before. They waved and smiled. This was crazy. I saw Jason at my locker and was going to say hi when Rebecca stepped in front of me. She looked so shocked. Her friends flocked around me and showered me with so many compliments.
Oh my God, I love your hair. Where did you get this dress? It's awesome. Can I borrow those shoes sometime, Sam?
Rebecca looked furious. Then she smiled and said,
Do you want to sit with us at lunch, Sam? You just have to tell me what you did with your hair.
Maybe she was coming around? At lunch, I went past Cindy and my table and headed to the back with Rebecca and her friends. They kept complimenting me and asking me questions. I'd never felt so popular. Rebecca just sat there quietly, smiling a little bit. Then she crushed my entire world.
Seriously, Sam? What did you do to your hair? I want to try it, now that I'm dating Jason.
I felt like the lunchroom fell out from beneath me. I couldn't believe he would date such a horrible person. I fell completely silent for the rest of lunch and didn't eat anything. After lunch, I went to the bathroom and ran into Cindy. Sometimes we hang out there to avoid the loud lunchroom and people like Rebecca. She looked at my hair too.
Wow, what'd you do? You look great.
I started crying. I think it's this hair clip my mom gave me, but it doesn't matter. Rebecca stole Jason and now I'm back in square one. Cindy blushed.
I don't mind being in square one. We always have been. Isn't that okay?
She totally didn't get it. That's how Rebecca wins. I huffed and left the bathroom. When I got home that night, I found my mom having tea with a beautiful woman with long brown hair and glasses. She told me this was my Aunt Lucille, who would be staying with us for a little bit.
It's so nice to meet you, Sam. Thank you for welcoming me into your home. Your mother and I have had our differences, but she's been so helpful. You see, I'm here to find my daughter. I gave her up for adoption when she was a baby, and I want to reconnect with her.
She kept staring at me with that sly look my mom has. She was totally weirding me out. I could barely do my homework just knowing she was in the house. When I woke up the next day, the worst thing had happened. My hair clip was gone. I tore my room apart looking for it, but when I didn't find it, I knew exactly who had taken it. Cindy was the only person I had told about the hair clip. When I got to school, no one even recognized me. To make matters worse, I couldn't find Cindy. I saw a horde of girls huddled around someone, but I couldn't push my way through them to see who it was. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Rebecca and Jason at his locker. She went in for a kiss and he turned his head quickly. Maybe there was still hope, but not if I couldn't get my hair clip back. At debate practice, I finally found Cindy. She had the new hair clip on and looked amazing. I knew it. The teacher told me and Cindy to debate artificial intelligence in technology. If I couldn't get my hair clip back, I'd at least put her in her place. I went in front of the group for an opening statement. Artificial intelligence in technology is damaging because intelligence will include human traits. Humans have many negative traits such as deception, I looked right at Cindy when I said it, and betrayal. These human qualities will prevent the technology from doing its assigned tasks, and therefore, it will become useless.
Well, maybe some people are just scared the technology will become better than them, and they need to be taken down a notch.
Cindy stood up from her desk, her face red. The entire class erupted in applause. My statement was so much better, but she was so confident right now. I couldn't take it anymore. You stole my hair clip, give it back. Cindy's face went white and she stomped her foot.
I did not steal it. My birth mom gave it to me. She just came into town and said I deserved it. You're just jealous because you aren't popular anymore.
Cindy tossed her long brown hair to turn to the class.
In conclusion, artificial intelligence is good for humanity because of its many applications. For example, artificially giving a person like my opponent some intelligence.
The class burst into laughter and I ran home. When I arrived, Lucille was leaving. My mom was in the doorway with her arms crossed, looking angrier than I had ever seen her. When I passed Lucille, she smiled.
It was so nice to meet you, Sam. My daughter Cindy says you've had such a wonderful few days at school. Maybe if you keep it up, you can become as successful as her someday.
My mom totally yelled at her right there on the front lawn and Lucille left as fast as she could. It was hard to believe they were sisters. Inside, my mom explained that my grandmother had given the hair clip to my mom, but Lucille was jealous. She stole it and used it to take away my dad. My mom managed to steal it back, but the damage was done. My mom was clearly trying not to cry, so I hugged her. I was really proud she was willing to stand up to someone like that. I felt like maybe I should do the same. At school, Cindy had become a total nightmare. She even started pushing Rebecca around, but the icing on the cake was, she started dating Jason. She had totally tricked him. She looked so different, she convinced him she was a new student. He had broken up with Rebecca a while ago, but she was still clearly upset about it. So upset, we even started hanging out in the bathroom together to get away from Cindy. I told her all about the hair clip and my grandma. She listened closely, then smiled a bit.
Sam, I have a plan, but we need Jason's help. We have to tell him who Cindy really is.
I was nervous to break this news to him. He'd be really upset. Rebecca smiled even wider.
I don't think he'll be that upset. In fact, I think you should be the one to tell him.
I didn't know why she was being so secretive, but hair clip or no, I had to tell him. When I ran into Jason at our lockers, I finally got the courage. I told him Cindy was a liar and had just used Rebecca and me to get to him. He actually smiled and looked a little sad. Then he told me he had sort of known. He really couldn't stand how she had been treating everyone, and he would do everything he could to help. The next day, Rebecca and I watched from around the corner while Cindy and her posse went to Jason's locker. She pecked him on the cheek and giggled.
Where's Sam? I was looking forward to presenting her with the Worst Split Ends award this morning.
Jason frowned, then replaced it quickly with a smile.
It's no fair with you around, babe. Your hair is gorgeous.
But when he ran his hand through her hair, he pulled the clip right out. Cindy's hair rocketed out from her head like she had put her finger in a light socket. Everyone gasped. Jason threw the clip in his locker and slammed the door. Leaning against it, he said,
I don't want to see you anymore, Cindy. I think you're mean, and honestly, I've always liked Sam. I thought you were like her, but it turns out you couldn't be more different.
Cindy ran right past us as she left school. She gave me the dirtiest look, but I didn't care. She deserved it. When I turned, Jason was right in front of me, smiling.
I meant what I said. I've always liked you. I just couldn't find the courage to talk to you.
I blushed, then had a crazy thought. Hey Jason, when I first got the hair clip, did you notice anything different about me? He frowned and shook his head.
Not at all.
I kissed him. That night, my mom and I put the hair clip back in the attic. I definitely didn't need it anymore.
I can't believe this! Life is garbage. I'm going to break everything in here! I heard my mom screaming from the kitchen and figured she was having another one of her tantrums. She usually behaved like that when she was upset about the smallest things, but she didn't break anything. This time was different because I started hearing plates crashing on the walls. I ran downstairs. Mom, what's wrong? Calm down. For goodness sake. The publisher won't accept my novel. Something about it being too cliché and romantic. But Mom, you're already a best-selling novelist who has made so much money. We are so well off, and I can't understand why you don't just retire. Retire? Never! The fans want more, but I can't give them what they want anymore. At this point, she started crying, and I was about to roll my eyes and walk away when she said, "But hey, I do have an idea for a book that will definitely sell, but I need your help. I want to provide insight into the lives of rich guys, particularly those around your age. I just need you to go on dates with super rich guys, then report to me everything that happened. It's going to be my best book yet. Maybe it'll even become a documentary. Mom, I'll pay you a few $100 for each date. How does that sound?" I could have said no, and you could have stopped watching this video right here, but I agreed, and what happened next was totally out of this world. Make sure you stay with me until the end because it gets more and more insane. Fine, Mom. She wiped her tears, smiled, and began cleaning up the mess she'd made in the kitchen. I gave my mom some time to gather her thoughts, then I decided to ask her where exactly I was supposed to find these rich guys to date. Her first suggestion was the country club. Lots of billionaires go there with their families sometimes. Just dress up pretty and sit there until some guy approaches you, okay? Okay, Mom. After school the next day, I got home, showered, and put on one of my best dresses. She dropped me off at the country club, and I walked inside trying to look like I belonged there. I found a seat at a restaurant and pretended to look through the menu. A whole hour passed, and while I could see several guys my age around, no one approached me. I called my mom and asked her to pick me up. It won't always work out the first time. Same place, same time tomorrow, okay? Okay, Mom. Do I get paid? No, you didn't go on a date. She was so annoying. The next day, I went back there and tried to put in some more effort. I made eye contact with this average-looking guy who was dressed like a total nerd. He instantly came over to me.
Hey, you're new here. I haven't seen you around before.
Yes, my name is Myra.
Wow, lovely name. I'm Garvey.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. We spoke for a while and exchanged numbers. When he was gone, I called my mom and she came to pick me up. That night, though, he couldn't stop sending me messages, and by the next day, he had already asked me out. This was all too easy, wasn't it? Our first date was that weekend. He decided to take me on his family yacht. I had an amazing time on the sea, although I found Garvey a bit boring. He didn't think the same about me, though. Apparently, I was the most interesting girl he had ever met. The week after, he invited me to his house for a dinner, and oh my gosh, it was huge. So huge and shiny. He introduced me to his family, then we all ate a 3-course meal served by different staff they employed there. After that, he invited me to his home theater to watch a movie. Then came the weird part.
Want to see my cool collection?
Okay.
It's in my room.
He led me up to his room, which was almost as big as my house. He showed me a shelf near a window. It was filled with little jars.
Isn't it awesome?
What is it?
Toe jam. It's fascinating.
What on earth do you mean?
You know, that stuff you find in your toenails when you clean them. I like to collect mine and store it in jars.
Garvey, that's not normal.
Hey, I'm just sharing my passions with the girl I love.
Curly, what? At that point, I made up some story about having a bellyache and needed to go home immediately. He got one of their drivers to take me home, and when I got there, I ran straight to my mom. Mom! He's crazy! I told her everything, and she couldn't contain her excitement. I knew it! Rich guys all have some strange, disgusting addiction. Here's $300. Are you going to continue seeing this guy? No, of course not. Fine. You need to start looking for the next one then. maybe you can use online dating this time. I took my money happily and went to my room to download some apps. It took a few days, but I found a guy who looked like he had a lot of money. He had pictures in front of his parents' mansion, their beach house, their house in the forest, and loads of pictures at 5-star hotels in exotic locations. I swiped right and started talking to him. Lester was a bit more difficult than Garvey, but he eventually asked me out. He took me to a 5-star Italian restaurant and gave me some expensive jewelry as a gift. I actually thought he was pretty cute. We hung out almost every afternoon and eventually took me home to introduce me to his parents. Like Garvey, he lived in a huge house and his parents loved me. Don't they all? For a while, this guy actually seemed pretty normal, until I was invited to his beach house with his family one weekend. He told me he had a special room there he wanted me to see. I thought it'd just be a romantic place for making out, but when he opened the door, I screamed. What is this?
They're my pets. Well, ordinary people get dogs and cats, but this is what I prefer.
The room was filled with rats in different cages, all of different sizes. But I'm terrified of rats, and I didn't give him much time to explain why his pets were in his beach house instead of his regular house, or why he was just so weird in the first place. I bolted out the door and ran for 10 minutes. I texted my location to my mom, who instantly came to my rescue. Rats! Yes, that's a good one. Here's $400. Good job, Myra. I was really starting to like that guy, you know. That's life. I thought I liked your father, too. Anyway, my publisher, although I hate him now, is having this huge event at his house, and I know he has lots of rich friends. You can find the next guy there. It's tomorrow. I've already bought you a stunning dress. Okay, I honestly wanted to stop dating creeps, but I enjoyed the money. At the event, I met Corey. He was the son of a famous actor, and he seemed to be pretty into me.
Girl, you are mad cute. Want to get out of here and have some real fun?
Sure. I let my mom know I was leaving, and technically this was a date, so she'd have to pay me for it. We went to a club, and after that, we decided to walk a bit before calling an Uber or his driver to take us home. I got a bit tired, so I stopped to lean on a pole. He grabbed my hand and looked into my eyes. Just as I thought that he was about to lean in for a kiss, he started licking the pole behind me. Have you been drinking? Are you okay?
No, I have this thing. I don't know if it's a disorder, but I think it's a hobby. I like to lick things. I've never licked this pole before. Hey, your dress looks delicious too. Can I taste it?
At this point, I was starting to think that all guys were completely insane. Hey, how about you lick my shoe instead? I kicked off my heels and gave them to him. I walked around the corner and called my mom. Licking stuff, huh? Here's $500. This book's gonna be great. You're the best daughter, Myra. I decided I was gonna give up. I told my mom I was not going to go on any more dates, and that I was going to spend all my money on stuff to help me recover from this trauma. You know how they say that love finds you when you're not looking for it at all? I was in a high-end clothing store trying to pick a jacket when I felt a tap on my shoulder.
They both look great on you, honestly.
A voice said. I turned around and saw the man of my dreams. A literal Prince Charming. I froze.
What's wrong?
Nothing. I'm Myra. Who are you?
Ricardo. My parents own this store.
Oh, great. Another rich guy, I thought.
Hey, how about I pay for both of them and you let me treat you to lunch?
Sure. I smiled shyly. Long story short, we hit it off really quickly. It took me no time at all to fall head over heels for Ricardo. We were going steady and had officially become boyfriend and girlfriend. After about 2 months, I was convinced that this was the man I was going to be with for the rest of my life. Myra. Yes, Mom? I can't write my book based on 3 stupid dates. I need you to go on more dates. Mom, I told you I have a boyfriend now. Yes, but he doesn't have to know. I'll double the pay. Come on. Fine. I started going on dates again, and I was really careful to make sure that Ricardo didn't find out. I'd been on at least 30, and I was making loads of money. My mom was super happy too. Then, one evening, while I was eating at a fancy restaurant with some guy named Henry, I spotted Ricardo in the corner of my eyes. He looked like he was making reservations. I got up quickly and ran to the bathroom, which was in the other direction. I waited in there for a while, then I got out when I thought it was safe. Henry was waiting for me outside.
Hey, I got a little worried. Are you okay?
Yes, sure.
Myra, what are you doing here?
Ricardo was right in front of us.
Myra is here with me, Henry, her handsome date.
Henry smiled. He thought he was being funny. Ricardo looked at me like his soul was shattered. He turned around and walked away. I got my purse and ran after him, but he refused to look back. I walked home, and when I got inside, I broke into tears. What's wrong, honey? Ricardo saw me on a date. He will never speak to me again. She started laughing. How is any of this funny? Ricardo is right here, honey. She asked me to follow her to the dining room, which was filled with all her friends and some other guests. I finished my book, and it's been accepted. I threw us a little party to celebrate. I told Ricardo about our arrangement months ago, baby. So he knew that you had nothing with that Henry guy. I guess he just felt like playing a little trick on you. Ricardo walked towards me with a playful smile. We hugged and kissed. Then my mom gave me an envelope filled with lots of $100 bills. Yay! Ricardo and I have been together for years now, and he hasn't done anything weird yet. I hope it stays that way.
Get Stephanie!
Dad screamed. Daddy, help me! I stretched my hand towards my dad, but the more I stretched, the further away my father looked. I was drenched with sweat and blood trickled down my face. I tried to stand, but I fell with a thud to the ground. My eyes shot open. My breathing was heavy as my heart raced. It was just a dream. It was just a dream. Hey, if you want to hear more about my story, stick around. I went from knowing where I came from to knowing nothing at all. Can you believe that?
I think it's time we go back home,
Mom said.
We don't need to make that decision just yet. We'll put her in danger if we leave now.
Dad responded.
We'll put her in danger if we stay.
I was heading to the bathroom, but my mom's words made me stop in my tracks. Where was home? I've lived in this neighborhood all my life. The following day, I cleared my throat and questioned them during breakfast. Mom, what did you mean when you said you think it's time I went home? Did we live somewhere before here? At school, my mind replayed what I heard the night before. I felt something hit me on the head. It was my best friend, Timmy. He waved his book at me. What?
You've been ignoring me most of the day, and the teachers.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about what my parents said.
Have your parents ever hidden anything from you?
I shook my head.
Then there's a reason they're doing it now, which is probably to protect you.
I guess. But Timmy's answer wasn't enough for me. I needed to know what Mom and Dad were hiding and why. Over the next few weeks, I kept a close eye on Mom and Dad. I even checked their laptops for anything useful, but I didn't find any incriminating evidence. Until Mom sent me into the basement to get some fertilizer for her garden one afternoon. I pulled the bag, but it caught on a part of the shelf and the bag tore. Some of the fertilizer spilled behind the shelf. I pulled the shelf away from the wall to scoop the fallen fertilizer back into the bag, and that's when I saw it. The door. How in the world did I miss this all these years? I held the knob in my hand and turned it. Could it really be that easy? I pushed the door open slowly. I expected booby traps, like arrows to fly across the wall, or flamethrowers to fly over my head, but nothing happened. I flicked on the light and stood there, amazed. There were many different types of gadgets and machinery on tables and walls. What caught my eye were two pieces of what looked like a broken stone slab under a round, clear glass. It had some weird markings and seemed to glow once tilted towards the light. I grabbed one piece quickly and went to my room. I pulled the piece from my pocket and ran my fingers over it. I knew Mom and Dad were hiding something. Timmy is gonna get a kick out of this. Timmy was the only 15-year-old that I knew that still watched sci-fi and believed aliens are among us. If anyone knew what this was, it'd be him. The next day, at school, I slipped the piece of broken slab into Timmy's hand. Do you think you could help me find out what this is? He studied it for a few seconds.
I've never seen anything like this before. I'll take it home, examine it, and I'll let you know what I find out tomorrow.
Later that evening, while I was doing my homework, someone knocked on the door. Come in! Mom and Dad entered, grave looks on their faces. What's wrong?
It's Timmy. He and his parents were kidnapped about an hour ago.
What? Why?
We don't know, honey, but the police are investigating.
Dad squeezed my hand. Then it clicked. Why would Timmy and his parents be kidnapped? What was the one thing that had occurred? The piece of technology that I gave Timmy. Mom, Dad, I think I know why they were kidnapped. I quickly explained to my parents what I found yesterday afternoon and how I gave Timmy a piece to study for me. Mom and Dad ran out of the room. I followed them as they ran into the basement and opened the hidden door. The piece of slab left behind under the glass case blinked steadily. Dad placed it in his pocket.
Stephanie, what you gave Timmy was a valuable piece of Russian technology. Your mom and I were double agents, and we changed our identities when we moved here to protect you. The nightmares you've been having actually happened. We barely escaped our last home before we found solitude here. You were about 3 years old at the time.
I wanted us to go back home, to the Mediterranean, because we wanted to stay away from this lifestyle. Timmy probably activated the tech and now all the pieces are activated. It won't be long before they find us. Or the others.
Others? I raised an eyebrow. A loud explosion from upstairs shook the house.
Find them!
A man shouted. Mom locked the door to the secret room while Dad grabbed a few weapons, then opened another door and looked me in the eye.
Stay close.
I swallowed hard and nodded. Mom and I followed Dad through the tomb to the shelter at the side of the house. We were almost to the car when Mom was violently yanked backwards. Mom! I watched as Dad quickly removed a knife from his boot and cut the rope that was around my mom's neck and helped her to her feet. 4 men surrounded us and we backed up against a tree. Dad moved me behind him and he and Mom looked at each other with a shared tension in their eyes before they sprang into action. Their moves were swift and flawless. Mom and Dad were soon joined by 2 other men I didn't know. As soon as all 4 enemies were knocked out, one of the men said,
"Let's go."
My parents and I followed them to the black van parked on the road. It wasn't long before we sped onto the highway.
Still cutting it close, I see.
Dad chuckled.
And we're still saving your lives.
The man laughed heartily. Dad introduced them to me as John and Kern.
These are our comrades from the days as double agents.
Mom explained the situation with Timmy and the tech.
Have you guys heard from Ruby? She's the only one missing from the team.
John answered.
We went to her place first. There was blood everywhere, but zero body. We collected her piece, then we came to you.
We have to find out where they're holding Timmy and his parents.
Dad said.
Guys, we're being followed.
Mom looked at the car behind us.
Hold on, buttercups.
Kern said as he sped up. We all swayed as we swerved through the traffic. It wasn't long before Kern took a road off the highway that zigzagged around the mountain of the North Range.
They're gaining on us!
John shouted. The van was rammed from behind repeatedly until Kern lost control and the van flew off the road and rolled down the precipice. Once the car stopped, it was quiet for a while. My body ached. I felt someone shake me.
Steffi, we have to go.
I was quickly helped from the car. Dad held on to me as the group ran a few yards ahead.
Steffi, hold your breath, and no matter what you do, don't let go.
Dad said as we ran towards the cliff. Still groggy from the accident, I couldn't respond. My body jolted awake when I realized that Dad and I jumped into the icy ocean below. We swam to pockets of air hidden between the rocks under the water until we came to our destination. It was an underwater hideaway. We entered the pod and Kern pressed a few buttons and the water drained out. Once that was complete, he opened the other set of doors. The hideaway was just like the inside of a small cottage, with a few bedrooms, kitchen, and a surveillance area.
The pieces will be safe here for now. They can't be tracked here.
I bathed and changed and went to bed while the adults made calls to locate Timmy and his family. A few hours later, Dad woke me up.
Steffi, we just wanted you to know that Timmy and his parents are safe.
I hugged Dad. I'm so sorry.
If I had listened to your mom and told you everything, this could have been avoided. I'm so sorry you had to go through this.
When I stepped into the surveillance area once more, Dad and the others were unpacking underwater equipment.
Okay, team, let's gear up. We're meeting Lieutenant Hilgard in a few hours.
Lieutenant Hilgard? I asked Mom.
He's the person we reported to. We need to let him know about everything that happened and to get more information.
It wasn't long before we swam to the surface on the far side of the island and boarded a plane to a remote island which was heavily guarded by Army personnel. We were escorted into a building and into the elevator where we were taken below ground.
Good evening, agents.
Lieutenant Hilgard greeted us as soon as the elevator opened.
I've been expecting you.
We followed Lieutenant Hilgard to a private room where Dad handed over everyone's piece of tech. Lieutenant Hilgard called over one of the guards.
Take this to Lucinda. She'll know what to do with it.
He handed over the pieces to the guard. As soon as the guard left, Lieutenant Hilgard turned his attention to us. Suddenly, the door opened and heavily guarded men entered the room and placed handcuffs on all of us.
What is the meaning of this?
Kern yelled.
You aborted your mission and your post when your country needed you the most. That was an act of treason. You'll be executed in 3 days.
Mom! Dad! I screamed as we were being taken away.
Don't worry, Steffi. Everything will be okay.
Mom assured me. On the second night, the lights went out and my cell door opened.
Steffi, time to leave.
Mom's voice came from the entrance of my cell. I went towards her voice and she hugged me quickly before she placed night goggles on my head.
Stay close.
We entered the elevator and John opened the door at the top as we climbed into the elevator shaft where there was a ladder. As soon as we exited the shaft, we entered the floor where Lieutenant Hilgard and his guards were located, and the lights returned.
Well, it's about time, you guys.
A woman smiled at them as she held a pair of swords in her hands. Motionless bodies sprawled across the floor.
Ruby!
Mom smiled.
Hey, gang! There's a helicopter waiting up top for us. Let's keep it moving.
While we were in the elevator, Ruby explained how she escaped and gave them a replica of the tech.
I knew I needed to find a way to track you guys. So did you guys get the item?
Dad smiled.
You know we always get the job done.
Finally, we exited the building and ran towards the helicopter where we all scrambled in.
Hey, guys, I'd like you to meet my husband, Byron.
The pilot lifted his hand. About an hour later, we landed, but only Mom, Dad, and I came out from the helicopter.
We'll be right back.
Dad called out to the others. As we approached the house, a man exited the house.
Levi and Melanie, lovely to see you again.
The man turned to me.
And you must be Stephanie.
I nodded.
Did you get the item I requested?
The man looked at Dad. Dad removed a small chip from his pocket and handed it over. The man smiled.
Great. Now I think there's someone you'd like to see.
We entered the house, and there he was. Timmy! I screamed as I ran and hugged him. I'm so sorry I got you caught up in all of this.
Are you kidding me? Here I have access to the world's best tech. I see this as a blessing in disguise.
Dad called out to me.
Steffi, we have to go.
I hugged Timmy one more time before I left with my parents. Our lives never went back to the quiet life that I knew. My parents came out of retirement, and Kern, John, and Ruby became like family to me. All of our information was wiped from the internet, and we became ghosts. Timmy, his parents, and I began to train under my parents and their team. I not only learned academics, but weaponry training, amongst other things. I changed my life and the lives of those around me with just one decision. My decision worked out, but be mindful of the decisions you make, because you never know whose life you will change in the process.